It is called as histogram. This is where you will get your, मतलब अगर visual से MCQ आता है, then you will get your maximum MCQs from this only. This is where the most tricky aspects will lie. So now let us go ahead and understand what this is talking about. A numerical value, first of all, try and understand this thing, can either be discrete or continuous. So I want to begin with a variable. Remember, yesterday I told you variable can either be numeric or it can be qualitative. So we have done quantitative and qualitative, right? Quantitative or which one? Numeric. Now I am saying that these numeric values, they can either be discrete or continuous, right? When I say discrete, but discrete is anything which is either finite or infinite sequence. Sequence माने के I am writing it in terms of finite or infinite sequence of numbers. जैसे for example, यहाँ पे of numbers. When I say that I want to go ahead and I want to give the rank of the students. Rank can be either first or second or third and so on. There cannot be any number in between. I cannot have a continuity achieved. So when I talk about my number line, right, I will either have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 and so on. You are not including what is coming in between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on. So when you have like that, that is called discrete. Now think about continuous. When I say continuous, continuous is when you are able to include your entire gap also. So I can say entire interval. Just say for example, let's say I am checking the pH value of any chemical substance. And I know that this pH value can be anything between 0 to 14. So beta 0 to 14 may I am including all possible values. Matlab it can be 0.2, it can be 7.8, it can be 9.33. So I am not including only discrete numbers. I am including every number between 0 to 14, including integers, right? Every possible thing that comes between 0 to 14 is included. Then that becomes continuous. So discrete is when you only include these, but nothing in between. And continuous is when you include the entire interval, but everything inside that interval is also included. Okay. Now, we will first start our histograms with discrete. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and I want to talk about frequency. So when I talk about frequency, what is frequency? The number of times, all of us are aware, the number of times that your variable occurs in the data set, that is frequency. So I can say any particular X, whenever it appears the number of times, that number of times becomes the frequency. This is what we already know. But can you write these examples of quantitative variables? Did I write these? You can just, yes, you can just give some examples here. You want me to write more? Age of a person. That is discrete. Okay. And continuous variable can be the income of person if you want to include all possible numbers in it, right? So then the example can be, as I gave, rank, that's a discrete variable, right? So you wanted me to write these examples, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So these are some of the examples. I mean, see, anything that I will be measuring, like for example, many books, they talk about the strength of a chemical, how easily or difficult it is to break a chemical, right? So when I talk about strength of chemical, it is in decimals also, it is continuous. But suppose I ask you, what are the number of deaths from COVID? Then it has to be a number. It cannot be in digit, in points. Either 2 people have died or 3. I cannot have 2.4 people dying, right? So it is discrete. So when I say discrete, you should not be including any decimals. When I say continuous, you can include everything in the interval. Okay. Now, when I talk about frequency, we are pretty clear with what frequency is. But today I want to talk about something which is known as relative frequency. What is a relative frequency? A relative frequency is very important to make a histogram. And how do I make that? It is number of times the value occurs, that means frequency, divided by the number of observations in dataset. Right? Let's say that, let's go back here. So for each group, I have written the frequency. Mane 5 occurs 2 times, 6 occurs 1 time, and so on. Let me quickly go ahead and add this together. Can you tell me what the sum is coming out to be? So 2 plus 1, 3, and 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, and 15. The sum is coming out to be 15, right? Now, when I go ahead and I have to find relative frequency, what does that mean? I will do 2 divided by 15. So frequency divided by total. 1 divided by 15. 4 divided by 15. 0. 4 divided by 15. 1 by 15. 1 by 15. 2 by 15. If you see here, the sum of relative frequency should always be 1. Have a look. If I just add this, beta 2 by 15 plus 1 by 15, you are adding all these. तो जो numerator है वो तो यही था. Denominator तो 15 ही है. And numerator का ही तो sum 15 था. So you just have 15 by 15 coming up, which will be 1. So the sum of relative frequency is always 1. Very useful concept. A lot of times they will just ask you, what is the sum of relative frequency? So you should be aware that it is just 1. Let's take another example. Suppose I give you a question like this. So I tell you, let X, it represent the number of courses a student takes in a semester. So a student can take 1 course, 2 courses, 4 courses, and so on. He has a choice between 1 to 6 courses that he can choose in one sem. Now, I am saying, suppose my N is 200. There are 200 students in the class. And now I am saying you that beta X is equal to 3 is 70. Samjho baat ko. Matlab there are 70 students who have taken 3 courses. 70 students who have taken 3 courses. Can you tell me what will be the relative frequency of these students? Yes, 70 divided by 200, which will be 0.35. So I know that 0.35. Achha, you can convert this in percentage also. Into 100 agar kar doge, that means 35% of students, they have taken your 3 courses in the semester. Are you getting it? So relative frequency is also going to help you to identify the percentage. And in very simple terms, it is telling you what is the proportion of people who are doing a particular task. Now, from here, I want to go ahead and I want to talk about histogram. So a histogram basically is when you have diagrammatic approach of these relative frequencies. Take an example. Suppose again, I want to talk about these same students who can take different number of courses in the class. And I tell you, these are the better number of courses that they have taken in one semester. Apni choice hai ki ek course lo, ek bhi mat lo, ya 6 lo. So you can either take no course at all, 1 course, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I've given you some frequency here. That number of students who take 0 courses is 20. And you can just fill this grid: 72, 38, 40, 100, and let's say 20 and 10. Okay. First thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to make relative frequency. So for that, I will add this up. So I will get 10, 20, 300. That is what I will get. Now I will divide. So I will say 20 divided by 300, 72 divided by 300, 38 divided by 300, and so on. So better quickly use a calculator and just try to fill this up. Do it with me. This is a practical subject. You should be writing your answers with me. So this is 0.067. Then you will get 0.234. Then you will get 0.126. Keep doing this. 440 by 300. You will get 0.134, 0.334, 0.067, and 0.034. Please verify it once that you are getting these digits only. Now, I want to go ahead and I want to show them in a diagrammatic way, in a histogram manner. So what can I do? I will go ahead and I will make a diagram like this. So I will take X here. X represents the number of courses taken. And I will take relative frequency here. Okay. And now I will say relative frequency, remember, is between 0 to 1. 1 se upar nahi ho sakti, because you are dividing a small digit by a bigger one. Hai na? So it has to be between 0 and 1. And you can go ahead and you can assign some intervals. So maybe I can say, okay, 0.05, 0.10, 0.15, 0.20, 0.25, 0.30. ऐसे करके you can go till 1. Now, what am I going to do? My values also beta are between 0 to 6. So I will write 0 here. It's a value. 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, 4 here, 5 here, and 6 here. I've written different values. Now what I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do is this 0 that I'm writing here, this acts as a midpoint. Matlab, जैसे 0 की frequency 0.067 है, मतलब 0.05 से थोड़ा ऊपर. So I will draw my histogram like this. So what have I done? I have gone ahead and I have taken 0 as the midpoint of this histogram. ये जो बार बनाया है, इसका midpoint जो है, center जो है, that should be aligned with 0. And I think it थोड़ा सा midpoint नहीं लग रहा है. So make sure that it looks like a midpoint. Similarly with 1. So 1 की frequency है 0.23. So 0.25 से थोड़ा नीचे. Then I will just go ahead and draw like this. So it should come from the midpoint. That is what is important. 1 should be aligned to the midpoint. सेम यू कैन ड्रॉ फॉर अदर्स. सो आप 2 की कुछ बना लेना, जो भी वैल्यूज दी होंगी ना अकॉर्डिंगली. 3 की बना लेना. आई एम जस्ट ड्रॉइंग इट रैंडमली. 4, 5 ऐसे करके बना लो. नाउ you can also draw something which is known as a smoothened curve from a histogram. What is a smoothened curve? To draw a smoothened curve, you will join these center points together and get a line. So for example, when I join these center points, I will get something like this. Like this. So this will tell me exactly how my pattern looks. It will tell me how ultimately where are my peaks and where are my troughs, right? And you will use this in economics also. जैसे कब recession हो रहा है, कब depression हो रहा है, कब boom आ रहा है economy में, वो in GDP को अगर मैं ऐसे map कर दूं, I should be able to understand that. So what I can do is, if I just want to draw these smoothened curve, then I will get this. You have to draw it in a separate diagram, but I'm telling you that from histogram, you can go ahead and you can get smoothened curves also. Now, sometimes what will happen in exam is that they will give you a histogram like this. Okay. And now they will ask you a question like this. So suppose they ask you, what are the proportion of students who have taken at most 2 courses? वो कितने स्टूडेंट्स हैं परसेंटेज में जिन्होंने एट मोस्ट मतलब मैक्सिमम 2 कोर्स लिए हैं? इट मींस बेटा, आई वांट टू ऐड द रिलेटिव फ्रीक्वेंसी of students with 0 course, then with students who have taken 1 course and students who have taken 2 courses. So how many students took 0 courses? Beta, this is 0.067. 0.067. How many took 1 course? It is 0.234. And how many took 2 courses? It is 0.126. So if you add this together, you will get 1017 to 0.427. Okay, ji. Please verify this answer for me. So if I have to give my answer in terms of percentage, I can just multiply this with 100. That means 42.7% of the students have taken maximum 2 courses in this semester. 2 से ऊपर courses नहीं लिए हैं 42.7% बच्चों ने. So relative frequencies can help you answer these questions, that what are the proportion of students who have taken at least 2 courses, at most 2 courses, exactly 2 courses. तो ऐसे questions भी आप relative frequency से answer कर सकते हो. Now, but this is discrete data. Now I want to go ahead and I want to construct histogram for continuous data set. So whenever you have to go ahead and you have to draw a histogram for continuous data set, what will you do? You will subdivide your measurement axis into suitable number of class intervals. ठीक है? These class intervals can be equal or they can be unequal. So to begin with, let us start with equal class intervals. ठीक है? Let me take an example. Suppose you're given some data set on the fuel efficiency of cars. ऐसा कुछ माइलेज के ऊपर डेटा सेट है कि हाउ एफिशिएंट योर कार्स आर, राइट? एंड इन दिस बेटा यू आर गिवन सम वैल्यूज एंड values are like this: 27.8, 28.4, 29.3, 30, 32.1, ऐसे करके कुछ दी हुई है suppose. And suppose, let's say you, from the data set, identify what is the highest and lowest value. So you understand that the lowest value is 27.8 and the highest value is 31.4. ठीक है, ये continuous data set है. So शायद हर number सिर्फ एक बारी ही आ रहा होगा, उनकी कोई frequency नहीं होगी. But you are very clear that you have a particular range in mind. Range मतलब highest and lowest value is known to you. शायद यहाँ पे और नंबर्स भी हो, जैसे यहाँ पे 27.99 हो, एक नंबर 30.254 हो, बहुत सारे नंबर्स है, but I have identified the highest and lowest value. So I know that from here, my highest value that I have, that highest value is 31.4. And I have identified that the smallest value that I have, that smallest value is 27.8. What can I do? I can make equal or unequal intervals. By equal, I mean that I will divide my entire data set in some intervals which include these values also. So for example, I can do something like this. I can start from 27.5 and I can take an interval of 0.5 each. So I can go to 28, 28.5, 29, 29.5, 30, 30.5, 31, and 31.5, something like this. So what you have done is you have divided this data set that you could see in intervals. Now, wherever you see value between 27.5 to 28, you're going to go ahead and make a histogram. Okay, so suppose there are 10 values between 27.5 to 28, then accordingly, I will have 10 values here. Maybe I have 12 values here, I will have 12 values here, and so on. So the first thing which is possible that you can do with your data set is that you can divide the continuous observations into class intervals. But even in this case, when you do this, make sure that whenever you plot these histograms, they are based on relative frequencies. So you still have to calculate relative frequencies. You should not be working with the actual frequencies. जैसे हमने यहाँ पर convert किया था ना हर चीज को relative में. It is important that you convert these also into relative frequencies. Let me give you an example. So write down example. Let's say that I have class intervals given to me. Class intervals से अपने आप आपको ये hint मिलना चाहिए that this is a continuous data set that you are working with. So my class intervals are given to you 1 to less than 3, 3 से लेके less than 5 तक, 5 से लेके less than 7 तक, 7 से लेके less than 9 तक, 9 से लेके less than 11 and 11 से लेके less than 13. Keep writing, ऐसा कुछ आपको दिया हुआ. Now you have already given in this case relative frequency. But how do I know that this is relative frequency? If the sum is coming out as 1, it means that they have already given me relative frequency. So supposedly they have given me 0.011, 0.011, 0.122, 0.233, 0.278, 0.189, ऐसे करके आपको डेटा दिया हुआ 0.100, 0.044. So when you are given a data such that the sum is coming as 1, you are clear that this is where you are talking about relative frequencies already. अगर नहीं दिया होता तो हम convert कर लेते frequency को total number से divide करके. Now, what will you do? यहाँ पे I think so data, this had one more value, 17 to less than 19, 0.011. Now you just have to make a histogram out of it. So to make this histogram, what can you do? You can just say my data starts from 1, then I have 3, then I have 5, 7, 9, 11 and so on. Now between 1 to 3, how many, what is my relative frequency? 0.011. तो बेटा यहाँ पर फिर से शुरू करना 0.005, 0.10, 0.15, 0.20 ऐसे करके लिख लिया. And then between 1 to 3, I have 0.011. That means it is less than this, something like this. Then the next one is 0.011. Again, same. Then the next is 0.122. मतलब 12 हो गया ना, 10 से बड़ा हो गया. So it will be somewhere here. And so on. So basically, my entire agenda is that whether you have a continuous data set or you have a discrete data set, for both you can go ahead and you can draw the histogram. When it was a discrete data set, तो आप उसके midpoint से निकाल रहे थे क्योंकि single values थी. But when it is a continuous data set, तो आप इसकी continuity को consider कर रहे हो कि 1 to 3 के बीच में कितनी values है, 3 से 5 के बीच में कितनी values है, and so on. Now, sometimes student ask a very important question, and I was expecting someone to ask that how do I know कि मैम अगर मेरा डेटा 27.8 से 31.4 के बीच में है तो मैं कितने इंटरवल्स बनाऊं? I mean, आपने 0.5 के ही इंटरवल्स क्यों बनाए? Why did I make this? I could have very well made the interval from 27.5 to 28.5, 28.5 to 29.5. अगर मैं ऐसा करती तो शायद सिर्फ 5 इंटरवल्स बनते. अब जब हम ऐसा कर रहे हैं तो 10 इंटरवल्स बन रहे हैं. So the question that students ask, how many intervals are apt? Is there any thumb rule for it? The answer is yes. You have a thumb rule for the number of intervals that you can make. And what is the thumb rule? The thumb rule, yes, so you're correct, beta. Ease and difficulty to plot to hai, but you have a thumb rule, mathematical rule, that the number of classes should approximately be equal to under root of number of observations. This is what books like Devore, author like Devore tell us. That suppose जो ये मेरी observations थी यहाँ पर, ये observations, suppose ये जो पूरा data set था, ये 100 observations का था, right? So I had 100 such values, fuel efficiency values, 100 cars का data मेरे पास available था. Then I will make 10 classes. So then root of 100 will be 10. So 10 classes मतलब कि जितना भी मेरा data set है, 28.5 first value है suppose, and 32.5 second value, last value है, इनके बीच में मुझे ऐसे divide करना है that I get exactly equal 10 classes, right? So how many classes will you define? Will be under root of the number of observations, right? Is this clear? Does this mean number of classes would always be a whole number? Yes, classes should always be a whole number only, right, beta? Because classes cannot be integer, because I have to define this is class 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are my classes. So I cannot have 5.5 classes. Either I will stick with 5 classes or 6 classes. Class is what you have here. Okay. Now, when I talk about my histogram, I have already told you that not always equal width is desirable. A lot of times you will have to go with unequal widths. Equal width का क्या मतलब हो गया? Equal width का मतलब ये हो गया जहां पे हमने हर एक की गैप जो है वो 2 का रखा. 1, 2, 3 gap of 2, 3 से लेके 5 तक gap of 2, 5 से 7 तक gap of 2. So I am keeping equal gaps, but always equal gap is not desirable. Sometimes you should be going with unequal gaps also. Take an example. Suppose beta, your data set is like this. You're given a dot plot, and the dot plot looks like this. I have many small intervals, and I see that I have one frequency here one here, many frequencies here, and one here. When you see such dispersed frequencies, मतलब यहाँ पे तो बहुत सारे डेटा पॉइंट्स रहे होंगे, बट यहाँ पे इस इंटरवल में सिर्फ एक डेटा पॉइंट था, इस इंटरवल में एक था, इसमें एक भी नहीं था, एक भी नहीं था, एक भी नहीं था, एक भी नहीं था, एक भी नहीं था और एक था. So when you see such dispersed plot, when you see that there is one interval in which multiple data points are there, and in other intervals we don't have much data points, in that case you should be going with unequal width. Unequal मतलब यहां से लेके यहां तक को एक ही इंटरवल बना दो ना, क्योंकि यहां पे मिलाकर भी सिर्फ दो ही डेटा पॉइंट्स आ रहे हैं. यहां से लेकर यहां तक सिर्फ एक ही डेटा पॉइंट है, एक ही इंटरवल बना दो ना, और इनको अलग अलग छोटे छोटे इंटरवल्स बनाओ, क्योंकि यहाँ पे बहुत सारे डेटा पॉइंट्स है. सो अनइक्वल विड्थ मींस you will divide your data not equally but unequally. Your width will differ. I can easily identify that using dot plots. So in case of dot plots, what should we be doing? We should see how my data is spread. And if I see कि कुछ intervals में बहुत कम data है और कुछ में बहुत ज्यादा है, तो जहां पे बहुत कम है उनको combine करके एक interval बना दो, और जहां पे बहुत ज्यादा है make them into small intervals. Okay. Now, in this case, when you will make a histogram, then beta, you should be calculating rectangle height through a formula. And this formula is relative frequency of class divided by the class width. बहुत ध्यान से समझो. देखो यहां पर ना क्लास विड्थ बराबर थी सबकी, तो यहां पर मुझे कोई जरूरत नहीं पड़ी थी कि मैं रेक्टेंगल की हाइट के लिए कुछ एक्स्ट्रा करूं. अगर मैं हर एक को क्लास विड्थ, हर एक की क्लास विड्थ कितनी थी 2 की, द गैप बिटवीन 3 and 1, 5 and 3, हर एक का गैप 2 का है. सो अगर मैं हर एक को क्लास विड्थ से डिवाइड भी कर देती, सिर्फ रीस्केलिंग होती. इट वाज जस्ट रीस्केलिंग, नथिंग वाज चेंजिंग. व्हाई नथिंग वाज चेंजिंग? बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली यू आर डिवाइडिंग इट बाय द सेम नंबर. नाउ सपोज आई हैव अनइक्वल क्लासेस. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल ये वाली जो क्लास है लास्ट दो, let's say that this class is 15 से लेके less than 20 and this class is 20 से लेके less than 30. But now I have unequal classes. I cannot directly plot these relative frequencies now. It will be wrong because the gap between the classes is not the same. So what will I plot now? Not the frequencies. अभी तक तो हम इस frequency को ही plot कर रहे थे ना. ये 0.011 था, ये 0.011 था, यही तो वैल्यूज को हम प्लॉट कर रहे थे. बट नाउ व्हाट आई विल प्लॉट विल बी डूइंग वन एडिशनल स्टेप, रिलेटिव फ्रीक्वेंसी डिवाइडेड बाय क्लास साइज. तो इसका क्लास साइज तो 2 है, तो 0.011 डिवाइडेड बाय 2. बट इसका क्लास साइज 10 है, द गैप इज 10, so it will be divided by 0.011 divided by 10. It is spread across 10 data points, and this is just spread across 2 data points. So we have to take into consideration this also. And this, when you do this, then beta, this value that you get, this is called density. Again, an important MCQ question. What is density? And when you plot these, वो जो rectangles बन के आते हैं, they are called as density scale. So why is density important? Density important इसलिए है because the class intervals are not equal. So if the class intervals are not equal, I cannot directly plot this relative frequency. कोई तो सिर्फ 2 data points के across spread है, and something is spread across 10 data points. So it is not possible to go ahead and to directly plot these. Is this clear? Now, let us go ahead and take an example, and then I will leave you for the day. So take an example. Suppose I tell you class. The class is 2 से लेके less than 4. The class is 4 to less than 6, 6 to less than 8, 8 to less than 12, 12 to less than 20, and 20 to less than 30. Right? And we go ahead and we have frequency here. And I give some frequencies. Beta 9, 15, 5, 9, 8, and 2. What's the first step? You have to calculate relative frequency. कैसे करोगे relative frequency calculate? Sum this up and then divide. तो इसका sum आ रहा है 48. So relative frequency will be 9 divided by 48. 15 divided by 48. 5 divided by 48. 9 divided by 48. 8 by 48 and 2 by 48. ये हो गई relative frequencies. So you will get some number 0.1875, 0.3125. I urge you, please do these on your own. Please just don't copy paste. घर जाकर एक बारी खुद से इसको लिखना जरूरी है. I will give you the assignments also, by the way, from now. These are your relative frequencies. Now I want to talk about density. So beta, what was density? Relative frequency divided by the class interval. So ये हो जाएगा 0.1875 divided by 2. ये हो जाएगा 0.0417 divided by 10 and so on. तो यहाँ पे आपकी कुछ values आ जाएंगी. This will be 0.094, 0.156, 0.052, 0.047. Please, please, please do them on your own also. ये आपकी values are. I want to go ahead and I want to plot these. This is what I want to plot. So when I draw this histogram, here I have 2, 4, 6. ये बेटा यहीं से देख लेना 2 से 4 है, 4 से 6, 6 से 8, but 8 से सीधा 12 है, फिर 12 से सीधा 20 है, and 20 से सीधा 30 है. So the gap will increase. Look at this gap, 2 का gap है. Look at this gap. Look at this gap, 8 and 10 का gap है, 4 का gap है. So accordingly you will show these gaps. And now just go ahead and plot these values. So the first value is 0.094. Again, I am leaving it up to you. You can plot these. यहाँ ले लेना 0.05, 0.10, 0.15. And accordingly, you will just plot these and you will get a diagram out of it. Okay. So what I want to show is that beta, here you have density now. You no more have relative frequency. You have density. One last thing that can come in MCQ. एक बात बताओ, density क्या थी? Density was relative frequency divided by class width. है कि नहीं है? Relative frequency divided by class width. So बेटा, relative frequency क्या होगी? Density into class width. This will just go here. Relative frequency will be density into class width. अब ध्यान से समझ के बताओ कि जो हमारी क्लास की width है, जो मेरी क्लास की width है, width, ये इस rectangle की breadth है ना? So this is the breadth of the rectangle. और जो मेरी यहाँ पे density है, वो इस rectangle की height है ना? This is how this rectangle is plotted. X-axis जो थी, वो breadth थी rectangle की, and Y-axis जो थी, वो height थी. So beta, can I say that the width of the class actually represents the breadth of the triangle, and the density represents the length of the triangle? Beta, length into breadth तो area of the triangle ही तो होता है. Sorry, area of rectangle. So this is very, very important conclusion. Again, very important for your MCQ part, that the relative frequency is equal to the area of rectangle in histograms. ये जो area निकल के आया है, this area, इसका जो area है, if someone asks you what is the value of this area, it is nothing but the relative frequency. This is what we have proved. So अगर मैं रेक्टेंगल नंबर 2 का आपसे एरिया पूछूं, बेटा वो कुछ नहीं है, वो सिर्फ रिलेटिव फ्रीक्वेंसी है, ठीक है। और रिलेटिव फ्रीक्वेंसीज का सम क्या होता है? 1. सो विच मींस इफ आई ड्रॉ ऑल दीज रेक्टेंगल्स, इन सारे रेक्टेंगल्स के एरिया का सम, द सम ऑफ एरियाज ऑफ दीज रेक्टेंगल्स विल बी 1, बिकॉज they just represent relative frequencies. So I will conclude my session with this. I want you to please write this down. Please write that sum of relative frequencies is 1. Write that relative frequency is nothing but the area of rectangles. So the sum of area of rectangles will be 1. Okay. Very important conclusion. हिस्टोग्राम में से इजी चीजें नहीं आएंगी, आएंगी तो डिफिकल्ट चीजें आएंगी. So we should be aware about these concepts. Okay, so we'll end here for today, and then in the next class we begin with mean, median, mode, etc. Thank you. Any doubt anyone has? Okay, thank you, beta. Bye.